and then you go on to installing the Visual Studio version. And the free one is the Express edition, so you go to Downloads, and then pick Visual Studio Downloads, and there's the option to get the trial version or the Express version, and the Express version is free to use, so pick Express. You then prompted with the optional download choice for additional language package that you don't need if you only want to use it in one language. Here it defaults to German on the left, and then you just start the installer. But of course it's Windows 8, it asks you for a sign in. Everything on Windows 8 basically requires some kind of Microsoft account, so you just provide it. And this might look different for you if you don't have access to a Microsoft developer subscription, but this basically just asks for raw details that were not provided already. In this case, my full name wasn't already known by Microsoft, and honest as I am, I provided it. So then the install starts. Again, you have to accept the licensing terms and maybe also agree to provide usage statistics if you wish so. But if you agree to the terms, you get the install button. Again, the warning that it modifies your system. Click through, wait until it's installed, and have the Start It button. Start it once, again, it offers you to sign in, but you can have the choice here to say no thanks, maybe later. That's basically you have a Visual Studio installed, but you don't actually use Visual Studio to build the LibreOffice version. You just use the command line in Sigwin, and that's the next step. And there's instructions, of course, in the wiki, and there's also the handy set of commands you need to paste into your command line to install the necessary packages in Sigwin. It's presented here, so you have the choice between the 32-bit Sigwin environment and the 64-bit build environment. Both work. I personally use the 64-bit variant, so you would click to download the setup that you want, and then paste the command with the list of packages into a command line terminal. So you open MS-DOS prompt, if you want to still call it that way, and then just paste the command in there. Make sure to use the correct directory so that the command is found. For example, I changed to the download directory first, and also make sure you use the correct name of the setup that you downloaded. In this case, it's the 64-bit one. And then just paste the -p and package name, -p package name command in the terminal window, press enter. Again, you get the prompt with modifies the system, whether you want to allow it. And then Sigwin setup greets you, you just click next. It asks whether you have an internet connection or whether you want to install the internet or just download packages without installing them. Of course, you want to download and install. It asks where it should install to. You just accept the default. It asks where it should download the files to. Basically, it keeps a cache of the files that downloaded, so that if you want to uninstall it, install later, you don't have to re-download everything. It asks whether it has a direct connection or whether you need to specify a proxy or some kind of stuff. And then ask you to pick a mirror. And just pick a mirror that's close to you or where you think it's close to you. Basically, they all provide good download speeds. And then it's the package selection screen. And you don't need to have to do anything here because the command line you pasted has already pre-selected all the packages in the language to build. So you just click next, and then it asks whether it should install all the dependencies that the packages need, and of course you keep the default that is yes, please. Also download the requirements. Then watch the progress bar go by. When the installation finishes, it asks you whether it should provide a desktop icon or whether you have an entry in the start menu. You can decline and uncheck the boxes, or just keep the default. And then it's time to start Cygwin the first time. So it does an initial setup by copying files to a directory in your user directory, but with that the Cygwin setup is finished. So next step is to download the additional dependencies. I'm not sure whether you can see it. Basically, it's also just copying the commands from the wiki page. We need a special version of Make that is suitable to build LibreOffice. So that's what's downloaded here. And you put it into a path. You can create the opt allow path like suggested in the wiki page, or just use the existing directory user local bin that's already in the path. So it doesn't matter what you do, just make sure it's used. And then going to check out the Apache and stuff, it's also just copying the commands that are found in the wiki page. Also for JUnit, it's just the result of pasting the command into the Cygwin window. So now it's the fun part where you might fail the first time. That's when downloading the sources. In this case, Git did just abort. It couldn't manage to download the whole sources at once. The last line of the command is receiving objects, 37% done. And that's the last thing it printed. So it didn't create the directory, it just couldn't finish it. You might run into it, it might work for you. That's one of the bugs that you run into in Windows probably. But there's also the alternative solution to use the bundled version of the repository. That's what I've done here. So I download the bundle, extract it, and check out the files in the bundle, basically. So it's just a pre-packaged set of the Git repository you can use instead of downloading it via Git. But the benefit that you can continue and export the download of the bundle, what Git doesn't support. If Git fails in downloading, you have to re-download everything. So if Git alone fails, you should try the bundle. So, but if you have the sources downloaded and ready to use, you can start with the configure line. It's also just copy and paste from the wiki instructions. And boom, of course, you might run into a problem again. In this case, I wasn't paying attention enough because I was using the 64-bit version of Cygwin. Below drop reads with the 64-bit Cygwin setup exit replace Perl_window by Perl archive zip, and I didn't do that. I forgot to change this part in the command line a little bit. So not a big problem. If you run into it, you just have to. Yeah, there it tells you that you need to the archive zip. No big problem, you just start the Cygwin setup anew, click through it, remember the mirror selection and stuff, so just click through the Cygwin setup until you get to the package selection window and enter the Perl -archive -zip into the search box, expand the selection, and then it defaults to skip, meaning do nothing. You click on the skip and it will check the mark in the column that's in E for binary, so it will download the binary version of the package and it doesn't build it from scratch. So when that's done, you just rerun the configure command, and this time it did pass. You run make, and this time I also used gp_color =1 switch to provide some colored output, and then you're done or not. Because Windows security software might trigger on the on the files that are used for tests. So, for example, here Windows Defender did a trigger on one of the test files. If you watch its detection history and it's appended, you see a critical error that the action it did take, it did quarantine the file. In other words, it did put it out of the sources and put it somewhere else. And if you scroll down, you see it's from the CPP unit test, RTF, blah blah blah. So an RTF file that triggered an exploit, basically, a potential exploit. So to rectify this, you have to add your source directory and your build directory to the exceptions that it skips while scanning. You do this by going to settings, adding the path, doing accept, and everything. And then the last thing you have to do is to restore the files deleted, and then hopefully people will succeed. That's basically what you need to do on Windows. Make sure you follow the instructions, use the correct version of Sigrin and JDK basically, and be aware that security software might break your build by just deleting files that are individually built. So in this case it's Microsoft Security Essentials, but also Bitdefender and other software might also trigger this. So, next, for example, is the Mac build. It's also pretty easy if you don't care about doing the builds that the TF does. In other words, if you don't care about the baseline, then it's just downloading the Xcode version. But in case you want to do builds that run on 10.6, you would need to sign up for an account at the developer.apple.com site. And if you sign in, you go to the member center. In the dev center, you click on the Mac dev center to get access to the download area. You scroll down, show all downloads, and then you search for Xcode 3. And then you pick the one that's suitable for your version of macOS. For Snowden part, only for the Snowden part, if you have anyone use the 3.5 version. But if you don't care about the baseline, just want to run it on your own system, then just get the recent version of Xcode from the App Store, basically. Then also, you can skip the downloading the build requirements here because it's just running copy and paste from the wiki page, basically. More interesting maybe is building the Impress remotes for Android and iOS. And for Android, we recently switched to using the Android Studio and Gradle build system, and formerly used Eclipse. But using Eclipse requires you to manually change the path of your SDK, but it's no longer needed with the Android Studio. Go to the developer android.com site. On the bottom right, you have the link to Android Studio. Again, you have to provide the download button for your OS, hopefully. If not, you need to check view all downloads and pick the one you want to download. You have to agree to the terms and conditions. You can download it. And after you download it, you extract, in this case I'm using Linux, to extract the tarball and do an initial update. And when this is done, you can start it with the studio command. This is the same, basically. If you already are up to date, the update studio command will just print if you're already up to date, you have nothing to do. So when you first start Android Studio, you will present it with the welcome screen where you can set up a new project. While the Android Impress remotes is in Git, don't use the checkout from version control choice here because it tries to find the build files in the top level directory, but that's not the case with our repository. So do the checkout from the command line yourself, or do it in two steps. But you need to use the import project and then point it to the location of your checkout. The Impress remote is the top level directory of the checkout. Then Android is a subdirectory, and the one you need to pick in the import screen is the SD remote one. Then it does some magic. You see a progress bar where it checks the Gradle dependencies, downloads all the stuff it needs, and runs a build on the project. And then you're basically done and can start to hack on it. You can also then use the VCS integration from the top. There's a VCS menu entry. Then you can register it with the repository, and this way you can also access the Git history within Android Studio. But that's an Android Studio functionality. I will not want you to take it because it's running out of time. For iOS, the situation is similar. It's easy, but only almost. So on the macOS, you just need to open the iOS remote.xcode project file that's included in the iOS remote subdirectory, and it then will launch Xcode. And here I didn't run it for the first time. Do you want to run it? Yes. And then hopefully it will succeed, but in this case I'm running a too old version of Xcode, and it tells me it cannot open the storyboard. So to build the iOS remote, you need to install at least Xcode version 5. So, but if you did open it in Xcode 5, you hopefully will see the build succeeded button, and then you can use the run button to run it in the simulator, or hook up your own device and do all the provisioning stuff that is needed to be able to push your build application to your iPhone or iPad. But if you plug it into Xcode, if you plug in your device while running Xcode, it will show the wizard where you can create the necessary provisioning profiles. But the simulator is quite good, quite workable. So if you just want to change some stuff around, you can use the simulator just fine. So that's it. Question time if you have any.
It's built time on Windows compared to Linux.
If you build with many languages, it's terribly slow. If you only build the English version, it's around, if you have a really fast machine, you can build in 18 minutes. But only if you have a beefy machine and a fast hard drive. So very good. But 19 minutes is the fastest I can get it. Maybe I have a question. Who of you in the audience already built Enviroments? And who did build on Mac? On Windows? Linux? Okay.
Mac PPC?
If you want to build for Mac PPC, you still can, but it's all on your side. You need to figure it out yourself. So if there are no questions, thanks for attending.